So I have been tasked with the impossible, boys. I have been tasked with ranking the Battlefield games from best to worst. I've used a tier maker that I just found on the tier maker website, so I haven't made this one myself, but we're going to be going through and very controversially, no doubt, ranking the Battlefield franchise. Before we get into it, I am keen to hear your own rankings as well, so be sure to, in the comment section, leave your best to worst rankings as well. I'm always keen to see how these stack up. I'm fairly sure not a single person will agree with me, but we'll see. You never know, I might actually have someone who agrees, but I dare say this is going to be a very controversial video. So without wasting any time, let's get stuck right into it. Now, as you can see, this tier maker list has S, A, B, C, and then it did initially have D. I've changed this to haven't played because there are a few here that I haven't actually played yet. And when I say yet, I mean I never will, because 1942, for example, the servers aren't around anymore. So firstly, I'm just going to get the games out of the way that I haven't played. I haven't played 1942, I haven't played Vietnam, I haven't played 2142, and I haven't played Battlefield Heroes. The rest of these I have played, so these are essentially the ones that we're going to be ranking. Even though most tier maker or tier lists do have more than S, A, B, and C usually, I personally wouldn't actually rank it like any of these below a C anyway. I think a C is like fairly low for a Battlefield game, so it actually works out pretty well. And so without wasting any time, let's get into it. I'm going to just go through in chronological order. I've already lined these up in order of when they released. So starting with Battlefield 2, this was a very, very fun game. I never really got to play it online, but I did play it against like bots, and it was very, very fun way back in the day when I was a youngster. I think for now, I'll probably put it in the B tier, which could be a little bit low. It might make its way up to the A tier. We'll have to see how the rest of it goes. Like I said, I never played online, so I didn't get the full experience, but I did sink a fair few hours into it just playing against bots. It was the first game that I had ever played that had like the class system and stuff like that, so I do have very fond memories of Battlefield 2. It was an absolute banger, and I feel like most people who are real like hardcore Battlefield fans tend to generally say it's one of the best as well. So it may make its way up. We'll see how we go. We then have Bad Company. Now, I actually didn't play this until after I'd played Bad Company 2. And so for me, I think this actually probably takes a hit because of that, because I'd essentially played the better version of this first, because for me, Bad Company 2 is just better. So that might be a little bit unfair. If I played this when it first initially came out, maybe it would be different. But Bad Company 2 was the one that I started playing multiplayer in. And then from there, I kind of went back and played a few of these other ones. So I think Bad Company on this list actually has to kind of go last for me as of right now. Not to say that it's a bad game. I don't think any of these honestly are a bad game, but I think just because, yeah, I played Bad Company 2 first, it probably takes a fair bit of a hit there. Next up, we have Battlefield 1943. I have very, very fond memories of this game. Some of the maps in this were absolutely amazing. I'm pretty sure this is where Wake Island, and I'm sure you guys know about from so many Battlefield games now. Pretty sure it originated from 1943, and I remember playing it on that game. Could be wrong there, but I'm fairly sure it did. I think for me, it probably still also has to go in the B tier, but it probably goes in between these two. I think Battlefield 2 was maybe a little bit better. Granted, this was a bit newer, so technically it may have been actually better, but I think I have more fond memories of Battlefield 2. But 1943 was a very fun game as well, so I think that slots nicely into the B tier. Now, next up, we have Bad Company 2. And I'm going to be honest, this already goes up to S tier for me. This is one of the most memorable shooters that I've ever played. The destruction in that game was absolutely phenomenal. Now, just because it's in the S tier doesn't necessarily mean I rank it number one, so we'll see how that goes. But for me, this is one of the most memorable Battlefield games. I really hope that the next Battlefield is actually Bad Company 3. I've been saying that for so long now. I said it leading up to 2042 that I hope it was Bad Company 3. I just love that franchise, or like sub-franchise within Battlefield. And this was, like I said, the one that I actually started with. This is the first one that I played multiplayer on. I played some of the other ones just like against bots and stuff like that, but this was the first one that I had the proper true experience of playing Battlefield against actual other players. So this one will always hold a special place in my heart, and for me, it definitely goes in the S tier. Now, next up, we have Battlefield 3, and now that I'm looking at this, Bad Company 2 may eventually have to make its way down to the A tier. We'll just see how we go, because I feel like there's going to be a lot in what I consider the S tier, and for me, Battlefield 3 is absolutely in the S tier. I probably would say it's a better game than Bad Company 2, but for me personally, I think I like Bad Company 2 more. So I'm going to rank it behind that, but I do actually think Battlefield 3 is the better game. if we're ranking this up just like purely an objective point of view, for example, I do think Battlefield 3 is better. But like I said, this is my ranking, not the objective ranking. So Battlefield 3 still S tier for me, but I think I rate it behind Bad Company 2. As for Battlefield 4, this one's tough because for me, it probably goes there above Bad Company 2. I think this is probably the one that I've put the most hours into. So yeah, I think this goes as the current number one for me. Battlefield 4 is just such a memorable game, and I think that was probably around the peak of the franchise. It really just took everything that was good about Battlefield 3 and just slightly enhanced it. The launch was absolutely terrible, if I'm going to be honest, but once the game actually corrected itself, it was a very, very good game. So I think for me, Battlefield 4 is probably in first place as of right now, but we will get back to that in a minute because I already know that may change. Now, as for Battlefield Hardline, I'm sorry to do it. I know a lot of you guys are going to love Battlefield Hardline. I don't think it's a bad game. Like I said, nothing is below a C. At the end of the day, a C is still pretty decent, and I would gladly jump on and play Hardline right now. But I do think of all of the games on this list, for me, it is probably the one that I enjoyed the least. I barely even played it, and that says a lot because every Battlefield game that ever comes out, I just sink hours and hours into. But when this came out, I just didn't love it as much as the rest. Like I said, still a fun game. It had some really cool like mechanics and stuff like that in it, so I don't think it was a bad game. But for me personally, it definitely is the lowest on the list out of all of these Battlefield games. Now we're on to the final three here, and this is where this may be controversial, but Battlefield 1, for me personally, is my favorite Battlefield of all time. I think I can confidently say that now. I've always kind of said I'm not sure which one is my favorite out of these two, and it is very close. If this is like a 100 out of 100, that would be a 99 out of 100. Like they're very, very close, but Battlefield 1 for me just has like weirdly more nostalgia behind it than Battlefield 4, even though Battlefield 4 is older. Battlefield 1 was just out during a time when I just moved out of home for the first time, lived in a house with me and two of my best mates, and we'd all have our own Xbox, playing on the same Wi-Fi in our own bedrooms on the headsets, playing with each other and stuff. It was just such a fun game. I still remember to this day playing the hell out of the beta when that was out that weekend. I literally reckon if it was live for 48 hours, I honestly reckon I played like 40 hours in that weekend. It's all I did the whole weekend. And just the general like aesthetic of the game, the atmosphere, the audio design, all of that stuff, it just is so memorable to me. So I think Battlefield 1 for me is now my clear number one. Like I said, it's very, very close. Even between all of these, it's very close. But I think Battlefield 1 sits at number one for me now. Like I said, that may be controversial. I'm keen to hear your thoughts on that because I know it did stray a little bit from the other Battlefield games. So I think a lot of people aren't the biggest fans of Battlefield 1, but for me, it is an absolutely amazing game. Now, moving on, we have Battlefield 5, and this one's a hard one to rank, I won't lie, because when it was actually currently being supported, and especially like early on at launch, I really did not rate it at all. For me, when it first kind of came out and maybe the first year of live service for this game, I honestly would have had it there. I thought at the time it's the worst Battlefield I've ever played. I did not enjoy it really whatsoever. Granted, it was out during a time when I was covering Battlefront 2, and that was really all I played, so it kind of took a lot to take my attention from Battlefront 2. Maybe I just overlooked it a bit, but what I will say is once it kind of got better and better, and especially towards the end, and probably even more so once they actually cancelled it, it actually moved up the list for me. So I don't know where to put it. I'm not sure if I don't think it's worthy of A tier personally, but also B maybe feels a bit too low because we also have to fit 2042 in there as well. So I'm not really too sure. I think I have to leave it B. I think there may actually be none in the A tier. I'll just say that much. So yeah, for now it'll sit in the B tier. I'll probably sort of play around with this a bit once we're done, but for now it's going to go into the B tier. Now lastly, we have probably the most controversial of the lot, and that is Battlefield 2042. This one is kind of hard to rank because obviously it is still currently being supported, and I'm kind of only ranking this off of like where it's at now, whereas it probably won't, but it could get another however many seasons, 3, 4, 5 seasons. We don't actually know. And by the end of it, it might be freaking up in here. I don't know. But I can only really rank it off what it currently is. Can I please get it out of the way? I'll just put it there for now. I can only rank it off what I currently know it as. And I think as of right now, I think it actually goes below Battlefield 5, which I didn't think I would say. Probably sounds like I'm hating on it. I love this game. I actually have sunk so many hours into Battlefield 2042. This game is essentially what I made this channel for. You can even ask one of my editors, Vic. I said when I started the second channel, if you guys didn't know, this isn't my main channel. When I started this channel, I said, I'm going to just play some Warzone. I'm going to play whatever games I want, but I'm gearing up for the next Battlefield game, which was 2042. I was lucky enough to play it before launch and stuff like that. This is what I built this channel for. So I do have a lot of love for 2042, even with a lot of its issues, but I think it actually goes below Battlefield 5, which is pretty mental to me because, like I said, when this came out, I did not rate it at all. It would have been literally down here, but it kind of made its way back up now. Like I said, by the end of this game, and that little nostalgia factor when in a year after it's been cancelled, it may move up to here, it may move up to here. I don't think it will ever be there, but it has room to grow. So I'm just gonna say it's there for now, but it could potentially go higher because obviously it's still getting support. And it kind of just depends on what we get in season 6, whether we get a season 7 and 8, I'm not really too sure. So this one is kind of hard to rank, but I think that is a pretty accurate ranking. And even though I do have some really good memories of these games, they just objectively aren't as good. Maybe in terms of the mechanics and like the class system in Battlefield 2, for example, it's better than 2042, but this is a more high quality game, even with all its issues, because obviously it's like 20 years older. So games that are that old, they just can't really compete anymore. And so, yeah, I think this is a pretty accurate ranking. It's weird to me that there's none in the A tier, but I think that kind of shows the level of how good the peak of Battlefield was compared to the games that haven't really lived up to it. Not to say these haven't, but these are a bit older. But we kind of hit the peak here in this era. Battlefield 3, 4, and 1 for me is absolutely the peak. Even Bad Company 2 probably included in that. So that was like such an amazing run that these are all S tier, but then the gap between the top and the next best games, because technically this is next behind Battlefield 3, which is kind of weird to say, but it's not even in the next tier, it's in the one down. And I think that kind of shows how much the franchise, I don't want to say how much it's fallen off, because I don't think the franchise is like in the dumps or anything like that. I think it's kind of clawed its way back, and it is poised for a bit of a solid comeback with the next game if they can do things properly. But yeah, I think this list just kind of goes to show the difference between peak Battlefield and like current Battlefield, because these are obviously just not even remotely close to these. And really, I don't think, even if the next game is an absolute banger, it probably won't hit these heights. I think this was just like one of those insane runs. Call of Duty had the same thing where like they had Modern Warfare, then World at War, then Modern Warfare 2, then Black Ops, Modern Warfare 3, Black Ops 2. That was just such an amazing run where every one of those games was so much fun. And this is kind of the Battlefield equivalent of that. So anyway, I'm waffling on. That is my final rankings for the Battlefield games. I am very keen to hear your thoughts and your own rankings. So like I said, be sure to leave them down in the comment section and feel free to roast me. I know that some of these are going to be probably controversial, even just like 2042 being higher than some of these. I know I'll get flamed in the comments. So feel free to fire away. I'm completely fine with being roasted. Hopefully you guys enjoyed, and if you did, be sure to hit that like button. And if you are new to the channel, be sure to subscribe with those notifications on. But with that being said, thank you all very much for watching. You guys have a great day, and I'll see you all out there on the battlefield.